It's a beautiful thing.
We in 6 countries. That's
Yes.
what I mean. So that's the thing that stands out to me.
Shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody. We love y'all.
Yes, thank y'all for listening.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the channel. I'm Coach Deb, representing one half of the Healing Corner podcast. If you're interested in booking a consultation as well as service or a reading, go ahead and check me out at debshealingcornerstone.com.
I'm Coach Yams, owner of Healing is Work Coaching, and I help millennial professional women to live on purpose unapologetically and to help them to stop doing shit out of obligation. If you need help with that, reach out to me, Coach Yams, YAMZ.com.
Greetings, friends and listeners. I'm Coach Deb, hosting this episode on this Saturday along with my co-host, Coach Yams. And we have a special guest, Charmaine, here with us. The title of this episode is The Great Awakening, Embracing the Shift in Your Journey. And Charmaine, I'm going to give you guys a little introduction of her. She is the founder of beadsandpotions.com. It's a spiritual online store dedicated to holistic wellness. With the deep belief in the transformative power of the spiritual practices, she has created a platform that transitions traditional cosmers. It offers a space for individuals to embark on a soulful journey of self-discovery and personal growth. Through beads and potions, Charmaine seeks to foster inner harmony and guide people towards embracing their unique path to wellness, blending the wisdom of tradition with the modern understanding of spirituality. Her mission is to empower others to find balance and fulfillment in mind, body, and soul. Charmaine, could you just give us a few words and introduce who you are to us?
Yes. So, hi, everyone. My name is Charmaine, also known as Auntie Charmaine, and I own a wonderful metaphysical store called Beads and Potions, the Mystical Apothecary. I have always had a very rich tradition because my father's family is West African and my mother's family is African American out of the Pentecostal church in Brooklyn, where I was born and raised. And so the core and essence of everything that I have ever done has always had a spiritual connotation to it, because that was the foundation in which was instilled in me at a very young age to keep in the forefront of my every existence. And so I decided to offer that to the world as my dear homage to my ancestors and grandmothers, because they paved a great way for me to live in such a consciousness.
Well, thank you so much for that. So when it comes to your personal journey of transformation, could you kind of explain to our listeners, like, what was the catalyst for your spiritual growth and your healing?
So my spiritual growth and healing came by way of my world falling apart. And I know it is a very taboo way of thinking, and it's very cliche because a lot of people say this, but legit, whole world fell apart. So here it was, life was great, life was grand, and then all of a sudden, life went from being great to grand to me having a child, my youngest child, who was born very ill, then experiencing an extraordinary amount of financial debt because of that child's sickness and illness, then having to file bankruptcy while keeping an entire family and marriage afloat, while also going through the stages of who am I, what am I doing with my life, where in the world am I going in this journey, and how in the hell did I get here? All of which happened from age 30, which is usually your Saturn return. Everyone has a Saturn return on planet Earth around age 29 or 30. So when mine came, there was no more grandmothers to say, now, baby, listen, you're going to get to about age 29, 30, and your life might just fall apart. But I need you to kind of keep it level minded. And then there was no grandmothers still there to say, well, this little period can last a little while, So, usually you start coming out of the funk of this at around age 39, 40. No one ever told you that. And so all of these little things is what brought me to a place of vulnerability where I was willing to be courageous enough to face what terrified me. Poverty being one of them, a sick child that I didn't know was going to live or die, financial ruin, of course, and then all of the strain that comes with all of that at once while keeping, again, a family afloat. And so that's how I landed here in such a place of enlightenment. It came through a great humbling, for sure.
Yams, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add. I have a question though. I I heard you say that everyone has a Saturn return around 29:30 and that the funk starts to lift around 39:40. What is this funk that's happening around 39:40? Is it still the Saturn return or is it called something else? Because I feel like this is happening right now.
Well, what is happening is usually it's not even, it's a part of the Saturn return, but it is almost like a cycle. So if you look at your life in patterns and in cycles, everything has a circular pattern on this planet. So usually it'll last that long because a person doesn't realize they're in it. What you'll experience is one challenge after the other, after the other, after the other, and it'll just seem as though you're having the worst kind of bad luck. You'll also question your spirituality at this time because you're looking for refuge and you're trying to find what is this thing, this energy that helps, right? So when you think about by the time you come out of this, just a karmic cycle, you'll experience karmic cycles on a smaller scale, maybe 10-year cycles. You'll experience karmic cycles for sure in 7-year cycles because certain planetary changes in your natal chart will come every 7 years. And for certain, you will experience karmic cycles in numbers of 30s and 40s. So, with that being said, usually things begin or end in those kinds of ways. So, because I started my Saturn return very naive, going into this blindsided, it only made sense that the way I started this cycle, I would be in the cycle to learn those lessons that had me start from the beginning. And by the time I came out of it, I would have came out of it more mature. So they're just karmic cycles.
Got it. Okay.
I was gonna add, I actually found out about that while I was going through mine too. I guess I don't know if I want to say I'm out of it, but it's more like I have gained a lot of tools. So it makes it more, it's almost like when you're aware of something, it makes it easier for you to be able to adjust to the shift or the awakening or this, the I consider it like a transformation that I'm going through. That's what I feel. And my own personal, since I've been going through this, it really has shown me about myself, like how I see life, where I want to go. And it's kind of like it sits you down and it makes you like really connect to what you've experienced in the past and what you want to experience going forward. So I can kind of relate to what you were saying because I had a significant change in the dynamic of my family, and it was actually in my chart, so it was predicted that this was going to happen. And for the last, I want to say 5 years, I've really been connecting more into my spirituality, because before then I was more religious. I grew up in a very religious family. So they kind of shunned what it is that I do now, but it was like it was destined for me to come this way and to kind of like even show some of my family members a different way of life, because a lot of them went through their own cycles and they didn't even know that that was what was going on. And some people don't even make it through these cycles. So it's important for us to even bring this awareness to people so that they're aware, if they're able to catch it before it even gets started. That's what I would say.
I would say not only are you absolutely correct, but I can absolutely relate. So, my mother's family, African American, came out of Pentecostal church. We used to go to a lovely church at that time, would have been now considered one of your mega churches, but at the time in the 70s, 80s, not so. Washington Temple in Brooklyn, New York was my great grandmother's church. Her name was Olivia Viola, and they called her Mommy Livy. And she taught me a great deal of faith. Now, this is a woman born in 1909, and she helped to raise me, a young lady from the 80s, born in the 80s. Now, that being said, that was because my mother had a horrible case of epilepsy, and four grandmothers and aunties are the ones who raised my baby brother and I. There was a great deal of religion, but with Big Grandma, there was a great deal of faith. She was living what she saw, what she heard. Now, this was also a woman at the time who couldn't read or write, because again, this is 1909 that she was born. And one of the things that I took away from her was the fact that she had an immense amount of faith during times when the world had changed almost for her overnight. So she literally saw man go from horse and buggy to flying in the air. She literally lived to see every world war, every Great Depression, every Great Recession, every civil rights movement, every personal dynamic that could have tested her faith. And yet she lived a sweetness. Life hadn't made her bitter because of what she had experienced. So for me, I didn't have a fanaticism for celebrity. I wanted to be like Big Grandma because she was respected in the neighborhood. So if the drug dealer was on the street and they saw Big Grandma coming back from Keyful, guaranteed, nah, man, that's Mama Livy. We got to clean this shit up. Hell no. When she finished, then we back at it. But until then, put that away. Hey, Mama Livy, you need me to take your groceries upstairs? I can help you. That's respect. That's the same woman who would not put the unwed mother in the back of the church, but she was so respected within the dynamics of the church that she would have that young lady sit right beside her. That's courage. So all of these things, I literally, with my eyeballs, not a figment of my imagination, I didn't have to go far to find what I wanted to be when I grew up. But then I had a West African father. That was like the tale of two cities, because our family came from the Mandinka tribe. When you come from an earthbound way of seeing God in a pure fashion, not contaminated with man and opinion, but you knew the herbs to pray over, and you knew how to pray. My great grandmother, she spoke 4 languages. Our family's name was Sekou Toure. She spoke 4 languages, Angala Patois, French, and Spanish. None was English, and yet she understood how staying connected in that way was very powerful. Herbs, prayer, anointing oils. These are all customs. Me growing up, I didn't take it for granted, but I just thought it was a way of life that everybody lived. Not until we moved from Brooklyn to Tennessee did the dynamic change, because the culture was different. And when your culture is different, you see things more clearly. So I would say that that is a beautiful thing that you have been chosen for such a time to clean up the family bloodline. What a blessing and an honor. Because of all the things that you're going through, a lot of times your family cannot understand because they were not created to wear that hat. Heavy is the crown, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So it makes sense why you have experienced this.
Thank you. Thank you.
And my question to you would be, do you know the secrets that your grandmother had to have the faith that she had without the bitterness, while also maintaining the respect and the courage of it all? Because I can't imagine living through and seeing and experiencing all of that life and still carrying herself in such a way, and you being able to witness that. Like, you explaining how she showed up makes me want to show up like that person. Like that, I didn't know people like this existed. How do you think that she was able to achieve this?
Big Grandma was an interesting creature, I'm going to tell you, because she had a way, if you were her enemy, she knew how to pray and make you her friend. She had a way that if there was a stumbling block in her path, she didn't go at the stumbling block. She knew the divine creator was her supply. So everything started, began, and ended with that connection, not the other creatures that come in your scriptures. The divine connection that cannot be broken, that umbilical cord between you and the infinite one. She taught us what alchemy really was, because she knew how to take a hard situation and turn it into something that was going to benefit her. She never spoke above a whisper. If she was angry about something, she never let it on. Because what she would do is she would take that frustration, that irritation, and she would pray the opposite of what she wanted to experience. The problem that I'm finding is that a lot of us indulge in the negative emotions. And we don't realize that when you play with the spirit of anger, she brings her sister spirit, frustration. And if you bring the spirit of frustration, she brings her spirit sister, aggravation. And so you don't realize all of these things are importantly in connected, whether good or bad, black or white. Polarity exists because we indulge in it. Big Grandma never spoke negative. I'm telling you, listen, I got smacked in the mouth so bad one time because I used the word hate. And because she had such a faith in God, she made it clear that God could not be the creator of hate. And if you represent God, then that word should never come from your mouth. Do you realize the kind of power that comes from a person who is literally watching the lynches, watching the financial struggle, watching the world wars and all of the things, had 7 children during these times. And no one ever went hungry. No one ever went to jail. And no one ever had problems that she couldn't pray you through, because it was something concrete in her that said, God is my supply and my creator. And I gotta believe that you are a good God. And therefore, all of these negative things that I'm sensing, feeling, and experiencing, that cannot be from you. And I need you to get rid of this on my behalf, because it's too big for me to fix alone. It's that. So she's not putting so much emotion or energy in the problem. She was putting her emotions, vitalities in the problem solver. It's getting to that frame of mind that kept her head above water and her heart pure, because she valued that connection so much so that she wasn't willing to allow anything or anyone to taint it.
Well, that was beautiful testimony of such a powerful woman to be able to, accomplish those things. And then also you can feel that she really poured into you as well. It's like I could feel her energy through you.
And I was
You
going to
know,
say that.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It was a funny thing that you said that, because she is Olivia Viola and I am Charmaine Olivia. I am the only one in our entire family among the great grandchildren that have that name. So you are most certainly right, for sure.
Well, that's an honor.
And I think what I've taken away from what you said, Charmaine, and just for what my personal experiences have been, and a lot of transformation, a lot of upheaval, a lot of shedding of old ways that were learned, or whatever the case may be, something that I know that something is needing to be released. I've not been able to figure out what it is or the words, but as you were speaking, I recalled hearing some spiritual teacher I think I was listening to talk about how we are addicted to negative. And I don't think consciously that that is true for me, but I believe subconsciously there is truth to that, simply because that has been the place that I've operated from and had to grow out of. And so I'm still learning to come from the place of where your big mama came from. I just, it's not my default. And I guess it's not a lot of people's default. So thank you for sharing, because I think that has helped open something up that I need to release.
Well, sweetheart, the truth of the matter is, right? I was raised by a great grandmother and some grandmothers and then aunties. So this is the total sum of literally being raised by your tribe, literally, right? So by default, you're absolutely right. We do not come like this straight out of the factory setting. We just don't. However, I think where we should go to is, are we as community, are we pouring into the cups of the young ones? So just like you said, you can feel Big Grandma all over me. You can see how she poured into me. This was a daily thing. This was her being conscious of how she showed up in the world. She never wanted a stain on her robe, not for her own aggrandizement, but for the fact that she knew people were looking up to her and she had to represent the infinite source to the best of her abilities. A lot of times we suffer, we struggle, we fail as a society and as a whole because we're forgetting the importance of pouring. How do we live in the age of Aquarius and we don't realize that we are constantly pouring? And you're pouring into someone, into something, whether good or bad. And if you just see life from a cosmic way, a spiritual way, and a practical way, if I'm looking at it from a practical way, what is the legacy that I want to leave behind? When I leave this world, I want to be missed. How do I get to a place where I have poured into this community, into this store, into this society? Everything that we sell here at this store, we hand make it. And everything that we hand make was taught by grandmothers. Everything. So you can go into a metaphysical store. By all means, you can buy your sage, your bundles, your incense, and all the rest. But guarantee you, What is in the essence of who we are is what we sell, what we offer to the world. The spiritual aspect of pouring is if you're pouring toxicity, you must understand you must drink from what you've poured. If you're pouring positivity, you will for sure drink from what you have poured. And when people begin to pour negativity in you, because that is outside of your taste palette, will you not drink? If you ever notice that when dogs or cats get tap water out of the sink, the faucet that has been pre-treated, you'll notice that when you put it down right away, they won't drink. They literally will wait until the fumes and things come off of the water. And once it has set there, they'll then go back and drink. A lot of us are literally pouring into empty wells, receiving nothing and gaining bitterness. Then you have those who pour into full wells, but you're pouring your negativity into something that is positive and therefore it cannot stay. So paying attention to how we're pouring things, and for sure, as a societal whole, well, there's no need to discuss whether or not we're pouring. Oh, we're pouring a great deal. We're pouring a great deal of negativity. We are pouring a great deal of nothingness. I've listened to some music here lately, and I'm just like, listen, I'd rather listen to instrumentals. I can't take it. Because literally, we've become conditioned to accept depravity, lack of integrity, and we promote it like it's the best thing you've ever heard, you ever seen, you ever felt and experienced. And then we wonder why connections to poor are not there. So again, seeing life in a greater way, yes, bringing that greater way into a more microcosmic way in where you live, yes, and then bringing that cosmic way, microcosmic way into something more personal. Now, when you get to the more personal, you're able to pour, but only from what the divine creator pours into you.
I can agree with that. That is definitely something that I could agree with. And thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so beads and potions. I know that that is your business. What influenced you to create that? And what part of your development influenced you to be able to come up with that?
Well, actually, it wasn't something that I came up with at all. It was a vision, an actual vision that I had experienced. So it was in July of 2020. Got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. In my bedroom, there's a hallway. So I go down the hallway to go to the bathroom, coming back to bed. As I get in the bed, I pull the covers up, like as if you was going to pull it up over your chest. And I'm laying there on my back. As I'm laying there on my back, I'm visited by beings who are cloaked. And they're just talking. And what they're saying is, you have been given a blessing you and your daughter will create. It gave me the name, Beads and Potions, and it told me how the divine creator was going to bless it. And I asked the question, why the name Beads and Potions? Because Spirit made it clear that the bracelets that we make will connect people to the infinite one. And the potions will let it be known that there is a real alchemist that the divine has anointed and blessed. And therefore, beads and potions came from that. So literally, every bracelet that my daughter makes, handmade, all of it with the anointing oils going according to the corresponding bracelets. All of the beads are literally incongruent with numerology because we were taught by divine beings how to put these bracelets together. Then the potions part. Big Grandma was for sure, I would say, an alchemist because she had the ability to take oils and turn them into anointing oils. She could take salts and pray over the salts and work the salts. She could pray to the earth and use the roots and things of that nature. So Big Grandma had moved from North Carolina to New York during what we call as African Americans the Great Migration, where a lot of us had moved from down south to the northern places to gain work. But she took all of those customs with her. So every year, Big Grandma would go to North Carolina, Washington, North Carolina. It used to be called Bear Washington, but today it's just called Washington. And she would go down south because she said down south was going to tell her the weather. So Big Grandma would go down south and she would see all of the acorns that would begin to fall. And she would come with a big bag of acorns, of course, and she would hand it out as gifts to all of us to bring abundance into our homes during the times of the winter. And depending upon how many acorns was on the ground, she could tell you if it was going to be a harsh winter or if the winter was going to be very light. So beads and potions came from that connection that we were taught, the laying of the hands, the knowing of the herbs. A lot of things we were taught by indigenous. We have to be honest because how many people knew about golden seal before the indigenous? Very few. How many people knew how to use it? Very few. So all of these are traditions that you find and you put it together and then your grandmothers learn and then they adapt it and adopt it and then they teach you. So that's how beads and potions became from a vision to a manifestation.
Yims, was there anything that you wanted to say?
Just that I've been in the store and that it's beautiful and that you can feel the good energy and the intentionality in the space. It's a beautiful store, Charmaine, and
Thank
I
you
need to get
very
back out there to see you again.
well, thank you very, very much. You know, when I first met you, I could clearly tell that you were tired, you were experiencing a magnificent transformation. But you were a person who looked for things to make too much practical sense. And your spiritual gifts were being developed. And you were trying to apply practical measurement for that which cannot be quantified. And even when I hadn't seen you, there was no need to come and see me because I've been doing work for you without you knowing. I tend to do that based on how spirit leads me. And you have to understand that there is something special about a champion. And you are most certainly, Yemen, a champion. So a champion is going to be a person who's going to stick up for the small person, even at detriment for themselves. And a champion is a person who is usually very exhausted because they do everything from a place of passion. And a lot of times, champions, they don't give to themselves what they give to others. And therefore, remember, we talked about flowing. The cup doesn't usually get full. And so you get burnt out very easily. Understood when I first met you, and these are all things that I know that you're working through. And I know that if you allow yourself to see the bigger picture, it won't be such a struggle.
Thank you for that.
I have a question because the energy that I'm getting off, it seems that you have other services that you offer besides the store? Is there anything else that you offer the community?
Yes. So I also have my spiritual life coaching. My education is in psychology with a concentration of marriage and family counseling. And many years ago, I left that profession because I was like, listen, I cannot work with people who are not ready to work. And at the time, I was going through my own struggles and had no emotional wherewithal to help. So that was one of the things that I brought back. Another thing that I brought back for the community is definitely my new podcast that is going to be coming out soon. And as a matter of fact, coming out, it's already out, but coming out into a bigger way is something that's we're planning on working on getting it on the larger platforms. And that is literally called Soul Tribe. And on there is where we will be talking about all things spiritual, all things astrological, all things astrology, all things herbs, all things prayers, all things that will allow a person to come out of their karmic cycle more content and solid in who they really are. Definitely, we do readings here. My daughter does readings. I also do readings here as well. Guided meditations, we do that. We're actually bringing our guided meditations from the fall into the winter virtually. So we're going to create them and put them on our website at beadsandpotions.com so you can purchase those at your leisure. And then we're going to also work hard in the next few months for what we want the next year to look like. So, what are the things that our customers are experiencing? Right now, our customers are experiencing financial stress, a feeling of instability, whether on the country level, whether in your family dynamic, employment insecurities, all of these things literally are meant to bring up all of these insecurities. And then we're meant to deal with what comes up, but we're meant to deal with it in a very loving, understanding, but practical way where you can help yourself. And so if you go to our website, you'll see a wide variety, everything from fixed prayer candles, custom bracelets, prayer beads. We also have a YouTube channel, Beads and Potions, the Mystical Apothecary. You can find us there. So we have a wide gamut of things that we offer in order to make our soul tribe solid, steady, stable, filled with love, pouring into them wisdom, and bringing to them an understanding that no matter what you practice, we all understand that there is an infinite source that cares for us in such a way that it must do what is best for our soul's highest good, even above what feels good to us. And then you can also purchase those things here at our store. Our address is at 322 North Cumberland Street here in Lebanon, Tennessee. And like Yami said, it is a wonderful and magnificent place. You are literally greeted with the spirit of wisdom and the ancestors and all the rest when you come here. So I appreciate this wonderful opportunity to share that little piece of heaven in a very tiny little town right outside of Nashville.
Well, before we close, I want to thank you so much, Charmaine, for sharing that amazing story, a part of your journey, and also being an active spiritualist in the community. It is definitely appreciated. Yams, do you have any closing remarks before we close? And then also, Charmaine, I just want you to leave us with last closing remarks before we close as well.
I think that my closing remarks for the audience would be just my takeaway personally, which is continue to reflect and shed the things that don't suit you so that you can get closer to where you're meant to be. That's all I've got. And thank you, Charmaine, for being here because I enjoy listening to you speak. I enjoy listening to the stories that you share, even on social media, because I follow you over there as well. You always deliver with love and gentleness, but also realness. And I appreciate that about you and the work that you do.
You know, I am grateful and thankful. In all things, I give thanks because when these kinds of settings happen, there is an energy that flows where more than one is gathered. You create an environment where people can be vulnerable and allow themselves to succumb to the wisdom that is greater than myself. I appreciate everyone who is listening to this because it is important to understand that every heartache and every heartbreak and every struggle that you have had and everything that you are experiencing, all of it is meant for your soul's highest good. And when you see it as something that is not happening to you, but for you, you can digest life's pills far greater because it's literally that little bit of spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down. Peace and love, y'all.
Okay, well, I hope that our listeners and our friends and family out there have enjoyed this episode, The Great Awakening, Embracing the Shift in Your Journey. If you are new here and this is your first time hearing us, wherever it is that you're hearing us, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the post notification bell as well. But we're going to go ahead and close out, and we'll see you in the next episode.